Last year, Nebraska was a semi-trendy playoff pick because of their favorable schedule. They will be getting no such favorability from anybody that knows college football this year. Connor Happer of Locked On Cornhuskers is here because he understands to what I am talking about right now. So, Connor, I don't know if there's a bigger schedule 180 in the wrong direction for a program in the country than Nebraska's schedule last year to Nebraska's schedule this year. For those who don't have it memorized, they have a non-conference slate that is ridiculously easy, unacceptably weak. It's got North Dakota, Bowling Green, and Ohio. It's not okay. It's not okay for anyone to do that. Big Ten play at Michigan State, Maryland. Okay, you're all right there. Indiana at Oregon, Washington at Illinois. Gross. At Rutgers, Ohio State at Iowa. I mean, what was your reaction when this schedule came out? Because yikes, man.
So last year in 2025, it was pretty well set up for them. And they, for the most part, with the exception of the Minnesota game, did what they were supposed to do. They almost beat Michigan at home in the early portion of the season. And people were thinking, hey, if they can somehow pull off a win in that game with a big crowd and all that stuff, then there's a way where they head into that USC game at what would it be? 8-0, 7-0, 8-0 at that point. And that's, for the most part, they were kind of on track to do that. They had a horrible performance on a Friday night game at Minnesota. No show, like a complete what the hell happened in this game. And then, so came out of that stretch, that first 8-game stretch at 6-2, and you're like, okay. And then the back stretch was USC, UCLA, Penn State, and Iowa, and they ended up going 1-3 in that stretch. And that's how the season ended up at 7-5. It's been a similar story around here for a while. And honestly, this season provides a little bit of the same fodder, as you mentioned, garbage non-con slate. I'm glad that we agree on this. Nebraska's one of the programs that needs to be playing a Power 5 team. It was supposed to be Tennessee this year. They backed out of the game. So
when did Tennessee do that? I must have missed that.
This was prior. I think Nebraska did it. Well, or maybe it was mutual, whatever. But the game does not exist anymore, which is sad for both fan bases. And they go on with playing their crap non-con slate with Ohio, Bowling Green, and North Dakota. But then, so you look ahead, as you mentioned, at Michigan State, home against Maryland, and there's once again reason for people to believe, hey, maybe you could be 5-0 going into that big Indiana game, who's more than likely going to stay the number one team in the country because of their garbage non-con slate throughout that period of time. And we're setting up for like a top 20, at least top 25 game at that point. It's hard for me to really buy into that at this moment. With that being said, there's only a couple landmines in there. I somehow knew that they were just going to go Indiana, Oregon back to back. It just felt like that was going to happen. And sure enough, it did. Bye week, Washington at Illinois, at Rutgers, and then finishing with Ohio State and Iowa. Nebraska always has a tough finish to their season with Iowa, and they somehow get matched up with, last year was Penn State, short week Iowa. This year it's Ohio State, short week Iowa.
Yeah.
So it's really, really a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the back half of their schedule, 4 of their final 6 games are on the road, having to play Indiana, then at Oregon in back-to-back weeks. I don't know that there's a good way. One of those games is at home and one is on the road. If they were both on the road, that would have been pretty ridiculous, of course. But I don't think there's a good outcome because both are going to be great teams. Both are going to be really tough environments to go into there. I had the thought for a moment, oh man, would have been better if you'd gone at Indiana and had Oregon at home. But then it went, well, I don't know. Is it?
Yeah. Well, we knew the opponents earlier, obviously. And I think for actually how, and then you find out the dates. When the dates came out, I was kind of like, well, there's no way you could really manufacture this where it's good. So you're trying to mitigate the damages, and to only it really worked out okay from like the where the opponents are at perspective when you knew that Indiana, Oregon, Ohio State, and Iowa were all and not to say anything bad about Washington or Illinois, who Nebraska will have tough time beating in both of those games as well. Like it kind of worked out okay from where the games are perspective. One really, really tough back-to-back with Indiana and Oregon, and then one really, really tough to back-to-back on a short week at the end of the year with Ohio State and Iowa. But a large portion of your season, the book of your season, is going to be written that Iowa game, as always, depending on where they're at beforehand. So it kind of worked out okay based on you knew the opponents you were going to have.
Yeah. I see that part of it. It's just playing Indiana, Oregon, Ohio State. Those are, in my book, top 3 teams in the Big Ten, and 3 of the top 5 to 6 teams in all of college football, and you have to play them in the same season. You get 2 of them at home. Okay, that's half a break in there. But man, our friends at FanDuel haven't released a win total for Nebraska yet. That'll probably come out sometime in the spring. Even with that start, which should emphasize on should be 5-0 to begin the year, they might not get many AP top 25 votes sitting there at 5-0 because of who they will have played at that point. And as we know, voters like to do, they'll anticipate the looming losses that are coming on the schedule. I bet FanDuel sets this win total, Connor, at 6.5. I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be shocked. Not kidding. Would not be shocked if it's even as low as 5.5. Last year it was 7.5. I thought that was low. I think it was an easy over bet, but Dylan Raiola got hurt, and then the end of the season went awry. But I can't see how Nebraska has the resurgent season to the Big Ten championship game picture.
Yeah, it's 6.5 feels like the right number for me. That's sort of what I was thinking in my head too. And it's been a pretty steady source of income if you've been betting the unders on Nebraska for years and years and years, because it gets put at 7 and 7.5, and you're like, well, yeah, maybe they start there, but of course they'll probably slip up in one of the games where they're supposed to win, and then that back half of the schedule looks tough. That's sort of been the stock thing over the years, and this looks probably, like you said, one game worse as far as the difficulty is concerned. There's reasons. There will be reasons. We might talk about one for optimism for Nebraska football this year. The schedule is going to be a challenge to manage for sure.
They're going to manage it most likely with the reigning Mountain West Player of the Year, who has Power 4 experience at quarterback in Anthony Colandrea, and Dan Mullen rehabilitated him in the eyes of the Power 4 world in a pretty significant way to wind up in Nebraska. When he transferred from Virginia, I don't think Nebraska or any serious Big Ten team would have gone after him at quarterback, but you go lead the Rebels to the Mountain West Championship game, and you do it with your legs as much as you do through the air over there. Is there cause for serious optimism with him likely at quarterback after the whole Kenny Minchie debacle?
People will look at the room. Nebraska is pretty well set up as far as the room is concerned. They have 3 guys in the room who have started Power 5 games, and Colandrea and TJ Lateef, who started a couple games last year for Nebraska, and then Daniel Kalin, who started at Nebraska, went to Virginia, and now is back at Nebraska as an Omaha guy. And you're like, all right, well, if something goes bad, then you have some options there. That has never been my style of thinking. It's got to be how good your starter is. And so Nebraska has to figure out an identity on the offensive side of the ball. They will have a quarterback who is a risk taker, will throw interceptions, will also add in the run game as well. And so I think there's a trade-off there, and where it lands as far as his safety with the football is going to be just such a huge part of this season. That paired along with the defense, who was just a leaking sieve at the end of last year, went out and got a new defensive coordinator in Rob Orich from San Diego State, and We'll see how quickly that can come together. It will be better, I think, on defense for them. It's just how much better is going to tell a lot of the story this season than how much Colandrea is going to turn over the football, because he's going to, because his history says he's going to.